This week's hymn for reflection is the very opposite in nature and tone to last week's. Whereas Will Your Anchor Hold is bright and vigorous, this week's is more restful, peaceful. This week's hymn, Dear Lord and Father of Mankind, was written by an American Quaker, John Whittier, whose life spanned most of the 19th century. You can still visit his family homestead in Massachusetts today. Whittier greatly valued the Quaker tradition of silence in worship, as it were, waiting for the still small voice of calm. His hymn's origin is a paradox. According to accounts, Whittier had been reading Max Muller's The Sacred Books of the East about the use of soma, a plant found in northwest India. Soma was used to prepare an intoxicating drug that was ingested in religious festivals and rituals, resulting in a state of frenzy. The hymn began as a part of a long narrative poem, The Brewing of Soma, published in the Atlantic Monthly in 1872. And the poem describes Vedic priests going into the forest, brewing a drink from honey and milk, and drinking themselves into a frenzy. Whittier was critical of those within his own Christian tradition who believed they might find God through unbridled ecstasy, such as what he felt were the hysterical camp meetings and revivals that were commonplace in his day. Rather than finding God in the frenzy of ecstasy or in the triumphalism of evangelical revival, Whittier believed God could more likely be found in contemplation and silence. Verse 1 then begins, Dear Lord and Father of mankind, forgive our foolish ways. For Whittier, rather than frenzy, true praise is expressed in deeper reverence. The third verse has one of the most beautiful phrasing of 19th century romantic poetry. O Sabbath rest by Galilee, O calm of hills above, where Jesus knelt to share with thee the silence of eternity, interpreted by love. The words of that verse always take me back to my own first trip to Galilee. Standing on the shore of the Sea of Galilee with the water lamping my ankles in the warm late afternoon sun. It was a quiet spot at the north of the lake, with the Golan Hills looming above. Without any prompting, this third verse of Whittier's hymn spontaneously entered my thoughts, and I recited it as the waters lapped my feet. It was for me a very meaningful moment. I thought of my late mother, who had saved hard to go on pilgrimage twice to the Holy Land. Like many pilgrims, she found it to be a special place where she could feel close to God as she walked where Jesus had walked. Somehow, in that moment, I felt an affinity with her and understood, perhaps for the first time, the feeling that she'd spoken to me of on reaching the Sea of Galilee herself. That is, an overwhelming sense of calm and peace. To be frank, in the Holy Land, there is a place on every street corner where someone will tell you that Jesus stood. But in the natural vista and landscape of the sea and hills of Galilee, I certainly felt close to Jesus of Nazareth. With that deep hush subduing all our words and works that drown, the tender whisper of thy call, as noiseless let thy blessing fall, as fell thy manna down. The English hymnologist J.R. Watson has a good summary of the contribution of this hymn. He writes, it is the opposite end of the devotional spectrum, from those hymns which encourage activity and energy. But everyone experiences the need for quiet meditation at some time. And this hymn encourages an almost mystical contemplation of the peace of God which passes all understanding. Perhaps in these days, it is a time when we are coming to realise a renewed sense of the need for time and space and peace in our lives, recognising a slightly gentler pace away from the usual hurly-burly of work and life. I hope that this will be a time of peace for all of us, a time when we can contemplate what really matters in our lives and where we can take time to find the presence and the peace of God in our own lives. The peace of Christ be with each and every one of you.